And so, it begins. Dark were the skies, and chill was the wind, as the land was covered in a veil of malice. Across the hill did ride a dread army of the night, cloaked in mist and fog, prepared to rain down death and destruction upon the land. And the people did crowd for a savior, a noble soul to save them from their impending demise. Just as it seemed all was lost, in strode a mighty hero, clad in shimmering metal from head to toe. Wielding a terrible broadsword, he did cleave his foes in two, smashing their ranks asunder with righteous fury. And when the day was done and the enemy strode across the fields in pieces, the people did turn to the warrior and say, "We shall name this day in your honor. Speak unto us your wisdom." The warrior said one word that day: epic.
One man, one Murloc, one giant angry badger. This is Blue Please. It begins now. Yes, indeed, folks. Welcome to Blue Please here on WoW Radio with myself, TotalBiscuit. The date today is the 9th of September, 2009. In my country, it is 8:05. In your country, it could be some other time. We care not, for it is Blue Please on WoW Radio, and we're doing a podcast edition today. I hate that. I really do. Right now, I have no active internet connection. It is absolutely screwed. I have no idea why. There is no good justification or rhyme or reason behind the entire damn thing. Bloody awesome. I am thrilled. What can I say? I am ecstatic about the whole affair. How could I not be? Wonderfully, fantastically, amazing. Obviously, I want to be denied my internet connection. Really. I never liked it anyway. The ISP's got the right idea. It's limiting my internet access for my own good. Or not. I don't have any idea what's going through their minds. I have no idea what's going on that end. I've called them like 3 times already. Oh well, the show must go on. So what do we got coming up for you in the show today? Well, I can tell you. We're talking about Battlegrounds. News from BlizzCon that you may have heard, I would imagine. Rated Battlegrounds. Oh yes, they are coming in, and why Battlegrounds are quite clearly the way forward. Arenas suck. I'll tell you why. Also, the hard modes of the Crusaders Colosseum beaten in a matter of hours. Dear Lord. I've got comments from a member of Insidia as well as a member of Stars who managed to get the world's second kill. The world first, of course, going to Paragon. Well done to them. On Anubarak. They'll be talking a little bit about their experiences in the Colosseum. And, quite frankly, expressing some disappointment. Not surprising. Also, stat simplification. Good or bad? We know it's coming. We heard it at BlizzCon. Indeed, I'm going to play you an excerpt from the panel in question. You'll be able to hear it and make your own judgment. I'll be talking about what could be good, what could be bad, how it could be executed properly, how it could be executed incredibly badly. We're going back and forth on that one a little bit later on in the show. Now, I'd like to say that we're doing the illusion of choice. Unfortunately, without an internet connection, that is basically impossible. So we're going to cut that out. No illusion of choice at the end of the show, I am afraid. Also can't do shoutouts because, hey, I'm not online. Doesn't really help matters. However, I do have an update news, and I do have an Ask the Murloc for you, so I will bring those to you a little bit later on in the show. I like to say it's so tranquil without an internet connection. No one bothering me, no one badgering me. I like people bothering and badgering me. I like being connected to the internet, I like being talking to people and interacting with people instead of sitting in a room, alone, in a corner. It's not very nice. Oh well, we deal. We get on with it. That's the way it goes. Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, it's time for this.
That sounds like it's mail time. Here's the mail.
It never fails.
It makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes,
I want to wail.
Yes, indeed, folks, it's mail time. The mail that I can actually bring up. It's great. I could do this entire mailbag just by reading the titles of things, because that's all I can get on Google Mail. Thankfully, my smartphone comes to the rescue by some degree. Unfortunately, it doesn't sort things very well. So I've got one here from... I can barely read that, it's really small. Darkness Fall, also known as Sigil of the Dayfall Guild on Arathor, and he says this: Hi TV, I want to hear what you think of the trade professions. They just seem to me like they're a waste of time until you're near max. Time would better be spent raiding or maybe picking one's nose hairs. Anyway, good luck with the new guild. Short and to the point. I've expressed an awful lot of dissatisfaction with the way the profession system has been. And yes, I would agree. Up to that point, it's basically been pointless. There are numerous changes being brought in, including the ability to gain multiple points from making something that is a bit more expensive. So it's a little bit less grindy. And they're hoping to bring in some more recipes that are actually useful. The problem is that up until max level, you're going to be creating gear which people level past. And they do so very quickly. And in this day and age, what you'll generally find is that an awful lot of people will choose to take the leveling questing gear and not the crafting gear. That's going to become even more prevalent in Cataclysm, where they have said that they are revamping a lot of the rewards and a lot of the quests in the old world. What does that mean? That means that you will be able to get through the old world content and not have to buy anything. You're not going to be stuck for 20 levels without a decent breastplate because everything's got like Spirit and MP5 on it. Maybe there's not a single decent plate chest piece for 10 levels. I don't know. I've seen plenty of ridiculous things in my day as leveling as a mage, finding absolutely nothing of use. And of course desiring to either craft something or go into a dungeon to get it. Since they're changing that and making the questing gear an awful lot better, then I would imagine that that's going to naturally push away even further the concept of crafting gear and indeed buying crafting leveling gear from the auction house. And not to mention, of course, we've had a reduction in the amount of crafted gear that you use while leveling due to the introduction of heirloom items. Obviously. And they're introducing the chest pieces, which will now stack on top of the shoulder pieces, so there's no reason to get anything other than those. I suppose if you're leveling up for the first time, then yeah, but then again, if you're leveling up for the first time, you will not have enough money for crafted gear anyway. With mudflation and all that. It's very expensive stuff when you've just started the game and you have no support and you don't really have all that much knowledge of how to make a lot of money. That's something that needs to be altered. The trade system and the profession system in general have needed to be altered for ages. Something interesting has got to be thrown into the works. Nothing has happened as of yet. So we're going to have to see how that goes. I would imagine the archaeology system is going to throw in a little bit of intrigue into the mix. How much, I really do not know, and I don't think it's going to be synergizing all that well with the other professions anyway, since it is a secondary skill, as opposed to a trade or crafting skill. Can't say that I'm massively excited on that front. Oh well, we'll have to see how it goes, and for the moment, simply accept that the trading system is not going to get good anytime soon. Trade skills are not going to become all that exciting or anything along those lines. It's unfortunate, don't get me wrong, but hey, every game has its flaws. And I've got one here, I can't pronounce his name, so I must apologise in advance. I've got to give it a try. Eskild Murray Boo, or Bo. Yes, there you go. And it's entitled Blue Please. Greetings from Afghanistan. Dear TB, long-time listener, first-time writer. Firstly, I must say I love your show. At the moment, I am serving with the military in Afghanistan. /salute. And I got a friend downloading your podcast and sending to me via email. It's great to be able to listen to your shows and be updated on the developments and issues in WoW, even though I'm in a totally different environment so far from the WoW community. Yes, I believe you're in the real-life equivalent of Desolus right now, and you have my sympathies for that. The best thing about your shows is the way that you tell it how it is without compromise and stand up for your opinions, even if you step on some people's toes. In addition, you do occasionally have some very good ideas for improving the WoW world. What do you mean occasionally? Backhanded compliment there. I would like to use the chance for a shout-out. One to Get Drunk, who introduced me to your show, and who makes it possible for me to listen while I'm over here. For Ziggus, the GM of my guild, for keeping me even when I'm away from WoW for 6 months. And to you for the best World of Warcraft show on the internet. It is truly epic. Yes, he did just say...
Epic!
That's from Mosanova, level 80 Warlock of Cretins United on Storm Scale. Well, thank you very much. It's nice to get emails like that. It really is. It's cool to see that people are going out of their way to listen to the show, even in the most harshest conditions. I'm glad I can provide entertainment for you, because I'm sure it must be a really hard job over there. I can't imagine. Never been in the military. But well done nonetheless. Very brave thing that you're doing, even if some of the politics surrounding it are skeptical. I don't think anyone believes that the troops aren't doing a stellar job. And if they do, well, they need to be slapped around a bit. Support the troops. Don't have to support the war to support the troops, folks. Yes, indeed. So, there you go. Shout out So Given and a /salute, and I do hope that you stay safe and come home to your family as soon as humanly possible. Right. Got an email in here that came in while I was off the internet. The wonders of smartphones. I can't recommend them enough. It's from BM... Who the hell's that? Yes, Washika, level 80 Saiyan Protection Paladin. Saiyan? Really? SSJ4 Paladin from Ysera US, and he says this: I would just want to say that I'm deeply saddened when I heard the news that I wouldn't be able to listen live during my calculus class today. I guess I do need to do a little bit of learning today anyway, haha. Yes, stay in school, kids. Not going to go into the politics of that, because apparently, to some people, the idea of being told to stay in school and do well is anti-American. Yes, let's not go there. Let's not enter that particular debate. These are the minority. We do not listen to them. Now, I guess I do need to get a little learning done today, and I hope your ISP issues get fixed soon. Looking forward to the podcast. Yeah, I don't know what's up with the ISP, I'll be honest. This started a few days ago, and it's just been all over the shop. It's very unfortunate indeed. Now, as much as I'd like to say, hey, send your shoutouts to me, nobody can hear me right now! It's rather disconcerting, actually. Shouting into the void when you know that no one is listening and are going to be listening later is... It's odd, it's weird. It's something that I don't do all that often. Oh well, we'll just have to deal with it. Now, do I have another email? I did get one, actually, if I can find it. This is the problem, I'm having to scroll through on my phone, which is way, way less convenient. There's one here that says mail. Is that any good? Let's have a look. Ah! Yes, there we go. Hi TB, the other day I was browsing YouTube and I saw a video of Nihilum against Brutalis, their first kill video. When I watched it I was flooded by memories, but then I saw a comment by someone with a name so stupid I can't even type it. His comment made me believe that the American raiders are just not able to think. His comment was made as a reply to a guy congratulating Nihilum for their good clean kill and saying that they were truly the best guild ever. His comment was, to all you anti-American bleep heads, who's the number one superpower right now and forever will be? How would you respond to a guy like that? Simple answer to that, I wouldn't. Don't engage people like that. Seriously. They're not universal to America. And we've had this discussion before, and I know that some people seem to be of the mistaken opinion that I'm anti-American. No, I'm not anti any country. Except the French. Can't stand them. Yeah. Just hate on the French. Everyone does anyway. The world's punching bag. But America as a society is very competitive. And America as a society is in general very patriotic. So, America likes to be number one at everything. They're not. You know, we already know that. There's a variety of things they're not into, but I'm not going to go too far into that. The point of the fact is that anyone like that, anyone that's particularly nationalistic, and takes it to the point where they feel the need to blast other countries over a video game, is most likely beyond help. You see them on both sides of the WoW forums, on the EU and the US. They're terrible. These people embarrass the countries that they're supposedly trying to support and claim to represent. You don't want these people. You don't want to get involved with them. You don't want to give them any attention. They are looking for a fight. They are looking for the opportunity to justify themselves by being an internet tough guy. The facts are quite simple. A US guild has not been number one on anything that has meant anything for ages, even though they always get a head start on the content. That's just something you've got to accept. The EU guilds in general are better. Not by much. There are some great US guilds, don't get me wrong. We had the interview with Premonition. Great guys, absolutely fantastic people. There's plenty of great US guilds. But, at least since halfway through the vanilla raid content, EU guilds have been getting the world firsts. And of course, we've both got beaten by a Taiwanese guild lately in the form of Stars, so hey, we're not the best at everything. But facts are facts at the end of the day. And if someone doesn't want to debate facts with you and they just want to sort of puff out their chest and wave their flag and say, hey, we're better than you, don't engage them, just ignore them. They're not going to listen to reason anyway. If they listen to reason and fact, they would accept that it's just a video game and it's not worth being racist over and being xenophobic. That goes for both sides of the particular argument. It ain't worth it, folks. It's just a video game. It's okay to get competitive. It is not okay to take it outside of the realms of the game. You can have a little bit of tit for tat. You can have a little, maybe even a little flame war, as long as it stays within the realms of the game. As soon as it goes outside and it starts talking about things which are unrelated to the game, that's where it ends. Anyone rational, anyone sane does not get involved in that discussion. Just let it fizzle out. These people have a very limited capacity for raging and ranting, and they will soon tire themselves out. Just imagine them sweating there with their neck beards. And their 450 pounds. And their XXXL t-shirt that says, whatever country number 1. Mozambique number 1. There you go. Mozambique, they're a big player in the raiding scene, don't you know? My name is TotalBiscuit, and you're listening to Blue Please, the podcast edition here on WoW Radio. I'll be back after this break to tell you a little bit about rated battlegrounds and how I believe that the battlegrounds have always been better than the arenas. And analysing how Blizzard intends to bring them back. Now I've got a great track here, and yes, all of the music you're going to be able to hear on the podcast. I'm using all of the stuff we have been given permission to. This is from Frank Klapaki's latest solo album. He's the guy that did Hell March and the Command & Conquer music. It's called Militant Funk. Enjoy. We at WoW Radio absolutely love bringing you great shows every week for you to enjoy. Apparently you guys love it too, since we've been asked by many listeners how they can show their appreciation for the host's hard work. That's why we've opened tip jars for our shows, so you can leave a tip for your favourites and show your support. If you want to leave a tip in the Blue Please jar, you can PayPal TotalBiscuit@gmail.com. That's TotalBiscuit@gmail.com. Whether you do or not won't change our dedication to bringing you great shows every week. It won't make us come after you with giant angry badgers either, but it will put a smile on a host's face this week. Thank you, as always, for your amazing support. Yes, indeed, folks. You are tuned in, or podcasted in, or whatever the hell you want to call it these days, to Blue Please on WoW Radio. Let's talk about Battlegrounds. I like Battlegrounds, so I'm going to talk about Battlegrounds. You got a problem with that? I certainly hope not. If you do, then tune out. I don't care, because I'm not on live, and I can say whatever I want. Not remotely true, I might add. I say this now because I know that my wife isn't listening. When she does listen, she'll come and smack me one, no doubt. No, you cannot say those kind of things on air, Total Biscuit. You'll ruin everything. Unprofessional. Oh well. For the moment, for these few precious minutes, I have the freedom to say everything. But I won't, because I'm a coward. Right, let's talk about Battlegrounds, shall we? Let's talk about what they're going to be doing. Well, they are going, in Cataclysm, to be introducing a system of rated Battlegrounds. Now, here's the information that we've got in a nutshell. Rated Battlegrounds are going to work in a similar way to an arena. Indeed, they're going to be an alternative to get arena points. Which is odd, really, because you thought, well, why don't you just fix the honor system and give us items of honor that are worth having? Why are you making an alternative way to get arena points? That's kind of weird, isn't it? Here's some arena points for not being in an arena. What? Now, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't want to be in an arena anyway, but why give me arena points? Why not just shift it all back to honor? That makes sense, right? And the honor gear sucks anyway. Not like it's really worth earning any of it. Anyway, each week, one of the battlegrounds is going to be a rated battleground of the week. And winning this battleground improves your rating and gives you points. Okay. Improving your rating, that's kind of weird, honestly. Because, as you're well aware, arenas and battlegrounds, while they share some similarities in terms of the things you need to be able to do, are worlds apart in reality as to everything that you've got to do. Yeah, it's two different kinds of PvP. So you're dealing with a small perform PvP where you are fighting for your life and one death is the end of it, and a completely different group dynamic to a battleground. And yet you are earning rating for both. Okay. That's odd, actually. That is really weird. I don't know why they would do that. Here's the thing. I'm not a fan of this whole equivalency thing, like, oh, he's good at this, therefore he must also be good at this. Well, that's not true. I've seen some horrible Battleground players who've been great at Arena, and vice versa. Because those two playstyles, they might both be called PvP, but they really are very different. They require different skills, they require different levels of communication, they require you to deal with the fact that while you might be on vent with your two other arena partners, you're certainly not going to be on vent with all of your battleground. Unless, of course, you've stacked it with your guild, in which case, naughty, naughty. Understandable, however. So you've got to deal with what I like to affectionately call herding kittens, which involves sort of trying to get them to go in vaguely the right direction and not get run over by a car. And it happens. Sometimes you can manage it. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you've just got to let the battle run its course, and the players in question are totally uncontrollable. They will not listen, they just do their own thing, and you've just got to hope that the other side is equally as bad, preferably a little bit worse. So, bringing in the idea of rating on the battlegrounds that I assume must be shared. I mean, they say, this was their quote, that it will earn you rating. It will improve your rating. Now, they're not specifically mentioning, from what I can tell, that this rating is going to be specific to Battlegrounds. They just said it will improve your rating. maybe it will be separate. And if it is, then that would be good. That would be ideal. Because what they're also going to be doing is allowing you to earn PvP titles. And the PvP titles, which, if you played in vanilla, you'll be well aware of that, they are given to you as you progress. And as your rating progresses, you unlock higher and higher titles. If you earn a PvP title, you get to keep it, even if you fall down out of that, which is the way that it always used to be. Now, if you don't want to do rated battlegrounds for whatever reason, and this is odd because I don't see any reason why you wouldn't. Here's the thing, losing in battlegrounds doesn't lower your rating. So you're not having to deal with the fact that you might be with 14 other unherdable kittens, and you just lose the battleground for whatever reason, and then that impacts your rating, and that's actually outside of your control. That's the worst thing, I feel. That's actually the worst thing in any game. It's not just specific to MMOs or indeed WoW. If something happens within the game that is outside of your control, that directly affects you in a negative way, it is infuriating. Indeed, it's the same reason that dice-based games don't tend to translate very well into PCs. People rage over them. I rage over them. I play a game called Blood Bowl. It makes me very angry from time to time, and indeed, were the game not so much damn fun, and did I not love the concept so, there's no way that I would play it on a regular basis, because I can get screwed over by things that are outside of my control. However, even there, you can sort of play the odds, whereas you can't really play the odds in a battleground. You don't know what the odds are going to be of you being stuck with 14 turkeys versus 14 godlike Grand Marshal level PvPers. You don't know what those odds are, unless you are able to stack the team, unless you are able to create a pre-made and get in with that. Then, of course, you can stack the odds in your favour. But not everyone's going to have that capacity, and not everyone's going to be able to do it. So, going back to the subject of the fact that there's going to be a non-rated version of the Battleground, again, I don't see why. Because if you don't lose your rating, who cares? At all. Winning the Battleground, supposedly, quote, improves your rating and gives you points. Okay, well that makes perfect sense. But losing doesn't lower your rating. Now, the amount of arena points that you're going to be able to get is going to be limited. So you're looking at a gated system here. So you're not going to be able to play for 24 hours a day and earn a vast number of arena points via doing these battlegrounds. Now, I can understand why, and the answer is very simple. Anyone that played in the old system knows exactly just how farmable and horrendous everything is. It really is. It can be absolutely awful. The wife actually ground out, I kid you not, ground out Grand Marshal. Not one, not two, but 3 Grand Marshals. And that was, of course, back in the day when she had that kind of time. And some of the things that were going on were absolutely horrendous. The amount of time being spent, the systems, the gaming of the system, indeed, in order to make that happen. Now, I know Blizzard does not want that to happen again. So playing Battlegrounds 24 hours a day, yeah, I can understand why they want to gate that. That's okay. Now, you'll also earn guild level by playing in the rated Battlegrounds with your guildmates. That should be important, actually. It's nice to see that it's like with your guildmates. So they are accepting that some degree of pre-made, some degree of pre-made is a legitimate playstyle and something that they're trying to encourage. That's good, because even though it was in the game, yet you could join as a group, with the exception, I believe, Alterac Valley, unless they've changed that lately. I wouldn't know, I don't really play PvP. There's been a lot of complaints about that, even though it's a perfectly legitimate system. People said, oh, well, it's unfair. Nah. Well, come on, guys, really? Why would you not give yourself the biggest advantage possible inside the rules? And indeed, playing with friends is more fun anyway. That's what the game encourages you to do. If you've got a choice between playing with friends and playing with randoms, the sane man picks his friends. That shouldn't even be an issue or a topic of discussion. That should be common sense. So I'm glad to see that happening as well. Now, it translates over to the twink argument as well, but that's another story for another time, and it's not like we haven't covered that before. So, what do I think about the whole thing? Well, I always felt that arenas were a very contrived way of doing PvP, and I understand that people like it, and I'm fine with that. I have no issues with people enjoying things. Why would I? I can see the appeal of gladiatorial combat. Absolutely, without a doubt. However, I do feel that WoW, being the game that it is, being an MMO based on hotkey button presses and basic movement, you're talking about a game that doesn't even have a proper clipping system, collision detection between players. You can just run through another player. Is not best suited for action-orientated, fast-paced PvP. It is suited for things which are based more around stats and mathematics, like, say, raiding, something a little bit more slow-paced. I accept that PvP is in the game and is here to stay, and that a lot of people enjoy player versus player. I do feel there are games that do it better, without a doubt, Guild Wars being one, another being Age of Conan, another being Warhammer Online. All of these games do PvP better, and there are more coming out. But I also understand that since people have established characters on this game, they don't necessarily want to go to another game just to do PvP. And even if the PvP is not as good, they are willing to deal with that so they can keep playing their character with their friends on the server that they know. That familiarity should not ever be underestimated. It's an argument that I've made in the past, that you can get very attached to a character, and that should never be considered to be unnatural. If you travel around with a character, and indeed with anything, any physical item, then you can get an attachment to it. You can get a little bit of sentimental value going on there. I don't see why that would surprise anybody. It also comes down to the fact that you've got time invested. It's not just the sentimentality factor. If you've invested time in a character, then naturally you are going to want to get him as far as possible. And yes, I am aware that this phone keeps going off, and I'm trying to make it stop. So yeah, I accept that because you've invested a lot of time in a character, you're going to want to advance him, and you're not necessarily want to with it. Not a real sentence by any stretch of the imagination. Just making it up as I go along. Spit that out. Right. Time invested equals you have a stake in the game, which means you want to stay in the game, even if the experience is subpar to what you might experience elsewhere. Makes perfect sense. However, when it comes to PvP, I believe Battlegrounds are definitely the lesser of two evils. World PvP is dead. Hasn't happened for ages. Wintergrasp is a nice gimmick, but I wouldn't even consider it real world PvP, particularly with the recent changes, which have basically just made it a battleground, let's be honest. Because they simply couldn't handle the world PvP. Game's just not built for it. So Battlegrounds are the best compromise. Yes, they're contrived, but they're less contrived than arenas, and they make more sense. Battling over territory makes more sense than having a gladiatorial arena combat with freaking spectators. How does that make any sense? Simple answer is it doesn't. I would imagine that if you're going to be on a war footing, that's the last thing on your mind. Having some play fights in the middle of an arena. As regards to enjoyment, I believe objective-based gameplay is better than simply doing a deathmatch. Deathmatches rely on the mechanics being solid and the skill ceiling being incredibly high. That's how deathmatches become enjoyable. When you don't have that, as in WoW, and again, don't get me wrong here before you jump down my throat, yes, there is skill involved in PvP, but the skill ceiling is not massively high, not in comparison to other games, other competitive esports indeed. So, in that situation, an objective-based gameplay mode is preferable, because what you do there is you introduce another level of skill which involves strategy and tactics and thinking ahead. A lot more involved in that than there is in arenas. I'm glad that they're giving us the ability. I'm still confused about the whole arena points thing and the rating. I assume that there must be some kind of separate rating going in. How else could it work? I certainly can't figure out a way. It doesn't make any sense. But we'll see how it goes. It's nice that they're acknowledging that Battlegrounds are a very popular mode of PvP, and they are something that a lot of gamers are going to want to get back into. I certainly will, and I'll be glad to reap the rewards from that. My name is TotalBiscuit. You are listening to Blue Please Podcast Edition here on WOW Radio. I've got some Nubcake news for you. I'll be back after this and a short music break to tell you a little bit about the latest world first kills. Enjoy. Live from the Blue Please Tower, high up in the Storm Peaks, it's Nubcake News with award-winning anchor TotalBiscuit, bringing you the news that matters, regardless of your own misguided beliefs. Welcome to this week's edition of Nubcake News. Coming up later in the program, the Azerothian Gardeners Association claims the Path of the Titans is thoroughly overgrown and could use a good weeding. But first, officials have raised concerns that the new rated battlegrounds may ignite tensions between the Alliance and Horde, perhaps leading to actual PvP. This shocking announcement comes at a critical time for faction relations. Just last week, some gnome got ganked in Stranglethorn, causing the Alliance to withdraw its ambassadors from the Undercity and threaten trade sanctions in a strongly worded letter. Actual combat between the two factions has, up until now, been a distant memory, with disputes between the two opposing sides sorted out in gladiatorial arena combat or on the WoW forums. But now there are fears that warfare may actually break out, and neither side is prepared for it. When asked as to how the Orcish capital of Orgrimmar would hold up against a protracted siege, Thrall, in rather panicked tones, responded, "The city isn't designed to repel an actual attack. We put in a back door that's permanently open and completely indefensible, which leads directly to my throne room. Why? Well, convenience, that's why. Who wants to ride past legions of idling players every day, or tread in stinking gold seller corpses by accident? No. I didn't consider at the time that it might be a critical weak point. Because in reality, while our walls might look threatening, they are made of paper mache and would collapse if it rained, let alone came under assault by siege engines. Why did we not build real walls and actual defences? Well, didn't you hear there's a global recession? Anyway, do you have any idea the cost of parts and labour for an actual wall that high? Look at it. It's like 50 feet in the air. It's totally impractical. Probably collapse in on itself, and then where would we be? Knee-deep in health and safety violations, that's where. Alliance representatives were equally anxious, with King Varian Rin found cowering in a corner whimpering. One of his closest advisors gave a statement saying, "The very notion of PvP that might actually happen again is incredibly troublesome. Stormwind is simply not prepared for an attack. We have like one guy defending the bridge, and he's been there for years. I'm sure he's got leg cramp by now. Also, we haven't closed the portcullises in ages, and they're all bloody stuck. We couldn't seal off areas of the city even if we wanted to." Perhaps the most vocal opponents of the upcoming war are PvPers themselves. They are quoted as saying, "What? We have to fight actual battles now? Defend an objective? How are we supposed to do that?" And, "Any fight that lasts longer than 45 seconds gives you a migraine." As we approached the walls of Blizzard HQ, we came under ballista fire, which took out several of our interns and a camera crew. We decided it would probably be best to call them instead. We spoke to Ghostcrawler, who was not pleased that we had interrupted his hourly bench-pressing sessions. He tore a nearby community manager in two on his way to the phone. We heard the tearing and the screams. It was rather horrific. After we had recovered from the shock, he issued the following statement. "Arenas are, according to our detailed analysis, for sissy girly men. As I flex and lift weights with my pectorals, I long for days where our players had to fight for their lives on a daily basis. That's why we are introducing rated battlegrounds in conjunction with auto-banning for anyone who attempts to step foot into an arena again. To ensure our players' adrenaline is always pumping, we have also introduced level 90 elite stealthed man-eating badgers into all major cities and orphanages across Azeroth. Any attempt to run away will also result in an auto-ban." Ghostcrawler then hung up on us, but not before punching a rhinoceros to death with his bare fists. In order to encourage arena players to come out of their shells and enter the battlegrounds, Blizzard gave 127 Emblems of Conquest to anyone who queued for a battleground. Unfortunately, it would appear that arena players are having some trouble acclimatizing to the new environment. Observers report that they have been seeing many arena players cowering behind rocks and trees, attempting to break line of sight, while their flags and objectives were being captured by the opposing side. There are also reports of anxiety attacks when surrounded by any more than 4 players at once, and former arena champions quitting en masse after their first death, because they don't know the meaning of the word resurrection. When interviewed about their experience, several arena players called battlegrounds big and scary. So, a proportionate response to the genuine problem of arenas. This reporter is going to clad himself in armour, sharpen his weapons, and then hide until this all goes away. This has been Nubcake News. Good night.
You hear stories of monsters in the waters, endless counts of horrific manslaughter. Sailors tell tales of beasts on the sea. What they don't tell you is that the worst one is me. You hear stories of monsters in the waters, endless counts of horrific manslaughter. Sailors tell tales of beasts on the sea. What they don't tell you is that the worst one is me. What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? We're gonna kill them and grill them. We be the nautical monsters. What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? We're gonna kill them and grill them. We be the nautical monsters. Bitch, smacking the kraken, and on his flesh we be snacking. The pepper we packin's enough to burn up and blacken. The sea monsters be a meal I agree. Chum in the breeze just fills me with glee. We hunt off the keys, harpoons off the beam. We live off the scream and eat off the skin. A feast for me party, this is my fate for me hearties. On the water safari, giant squid calamari. Leviathan chowder and monster crab cakes. Our guns filled with powder blow up serpent snakes. Kirby mates be the bait, there will be no debate. Throw them over with weights and then the bites we await. To fish giant sturgeons we use them fair virgins. They always be yearning for fresh meat submerged. Great whites never put up a great fight. They might if me crew hadn't taken a bite by the night. That's right. What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? We're gonna kill them and grill them. We be the nautical monsters. What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? We're gonna kill them and grill them. We be the nautical monsters. I bitch slap Leviathan in his chin, wipe off his smug little grin, send him for a spin back to where he's been. He tried to win, but his eye is thin like the Kraken, who I tore limb from limb from limb from limb. On a whim, snapped him like a Slim Jim, much to his chagrin. What's a has-been? Chase his blood with gin. Sea monsters just can't win. I've made giant squid on endangered species. Skyla, please, I killed her with these. Sea monsters freeze when they see me on the seas. When it comes to slaying them, I've got the expertise. I'm the greatest terror in all the ocean. Move over Tiamat, this is your demotion. I skin the Yakumama and turn it to lotion. My rhymes keep the ocean in motion. What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? We're gonna kill them and grill them. We be the nautical monsters. What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? We're gonna kill them and grill them. We be the nautical monsters. You hear stories of monsters in the waters, endless counts of horrific manslaughter. Sailors tell tales of beasts on the sea. What they don't tell you is that the worst one is me. You hear stories of monsters in the waters, endless counts of horrific manslaughter. Sailors tell tales of beasts on the sea. What they don't tell you is that the worst one is me. What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? We're gonna kill them and grill them. We be the nautical monsters. What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? We're gonna kill them and grill them. We be the nautical monsters.
Listening to Blue Please here on WoW Radio with myself, TotalBiscuit. I'm not really here. I'm talking to you from the past. Yeah. I hate it. I love doing live shows. It's as simple as that. It's what I do. I like doing it, and I don't like it when I don't get to. Anger, rage. Right. So here's some anger and rage. So I never really liked the look of the 3.2 raid content. I think I made that abundantly clear. And I made certain predictions. For instance, I claimed that the 3.2 the 3.2 PvE raid content was lackluster. I claimed that it was rushed. I claimed that it was a half-assed job. I claimed that it was a stopgap. I also expressed concerns about its level of difficulty and the fact that they were artificially limiting the number of bosses you could do every week in a vain effort to make the game last a bit longer. Look what happened. Within a week, indeed within a couple of hours of the hard modes being unlocked, everything was dead. All of it. The whole lot. World first by Paragon, the EU guild, on Nubarak Heroic Mode. World second by Stars, and no doubt a couple of other guys as well have managed it. That is absurdly quick. I mean, we know that these guys are good, but come on. I mean, this was like hours after they were unlocked. That's absurd. It's absolutely ridiculous. Now, I didn't think they'd be that easy, but evidently they are. Right, so there's a couple of statements that I've got to read here. The first is from Stars. Now, we know Stars. They managed the world first legit kill of Yogg +0, which they will attest, no doubt, was an incredibly hard fight and took them a very long time to learn. So one would think that the hard modes of this, particularly now that you're introducing a mode called Heroic, which is all hard modes, all the time, 24/7, girls and booze, you know how it goes. You'd think that if they're going to bring that into the game, they would make sure it was extra hard, just to keep people going. I mean, how hard can it be to put together a difficult fight? You managed plenty in Ulduar hard modes that were really challenging, and indeed Ulduar has had universal acclaim amongst the larger and more cutting-edge guilds. And from me as well. I always said that it's a great instance. The only problem was there was only one of them. That's just how it is. So here's a statement from Stars, and they said this. Receiving it, and obviously this is a translation from Chinese, so you'll have to bear with me. Receiving it 6 days and facing bosses 1 day later than EU for such a small patch. This is all we have. We already tried our best. World second is world second no matter what. We won't spend a lot of words on it. Instead, we have our 2 cents to give to Blizzard. We totally understand why different regions get the patch on different days, which is absolutely worthy if most players can have better game experiences with less bugs. However, Blizzard, please do make the hard mode really hard, so players from all regions have a chance to fight. By hard, we mean challenging the unknown, rather than farming something that's already been killed. Distinguishing top guilds by their farming capacity is just not the right way to go. In addition, we would really appreciate it if you bring the PTR to Taiwan. Everything we got belongs to all WoW players who can speak Chinese. Ni hao is enough. No matter if you are on the server of China, Taiwan, EU or US. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you Blizzard for making such a great game, and Softworld International for bringing it to Taiwan. Hope WoWers on the Chinese servers can enjoy Wrath of the Lich King soon. Don't worry, we only had 2 soul stones. We are the stars. Yeah, that was a little bit of controversy that was going on. Apparently, Paragon used like 6 soul stones or something like that. Yeah, well, whatever. You do what you can to win. I've never been an opponent of using the game mechanics as they were intended. We had the same bitching about world buffs, for God's sake. They used world buffs there, not a real world first, half-daff. Yeah, we can do without that. I'm not going to complain. You do what you can for a world first. You use all the tools that are available to you. That's how it works. That's how it should work, at any rate. If you don't, then you're idiots. It's as simple as that. Anything that's within the rules, anything that is not overly exploitive. I'm sure there'll be discussion on that, but that's not something I personally would like to engage in. That's my be-all and end-all on the matter. So, there's a couple of things that I'd like to take from that statement. First thing, they don't have the PTR in Taiwan, which means unless they're getting access to EU or US PTR with an EU or US account, they managed to get world second on a Nubarak hard mode without practicing. That's impressive stuff. If that's true, and they never had access to a PTR, that is really, really impressive. That's very cool of them. So, yeah, congratulations if that is actually the case. The second point is that they want the hard modes to be really hard. Now, what they mean by having players from all regions having a chance to fight is that regardless of the amount of extra time that certain regions get, so the US get the patches and indeed all of this stuff before EU does, yeah? Because the US maintenance is a day before the EU, so they get their reset first, which means that they get the advantage if they're going for a world first. This has always been the case. So, if you have a boss that is killed on the first week that it's unlocked, then the chance of getting a world first, if you are not in one of those countries, is astronomical. I do not know when the Taiwan resets are. That was not specifically stated. It's... yes, 1 day later than the EU, according to this. That means that the resets in Taiwan must be on a Thursday night, as in midnight Thursday onwards. So the servers will be back up by Thursday morning. So yeah, the EU gets 1 day ahead of them, and the US gets 2. Okay. So Taiwan basically never had a chance on this boss. None of the Taiwanese guilds had a chance, because it was so easy, relatively speaking. I'm not saying that it's a really easy fight and I could just log in right now with a couple of random scrubs and beat it. No. I'm talking about relatively speaking. As in comparison to Yogg plus 0, or even maybe Firestarter or something like that. In comparison to that, it was easy enough for a guild to bulldoze it on the first day that it was available. Now, don't ask me where the US guilds were. Apparently unable to beat it on the first day. That's odd. Maybe they just didn't have the time. Who knows? Or maybe they just didn't pull it off. But Paragon did, who are an EU guild. Now, I agree with them. Because on stuff like Yogg plus 0, Taiwan was able to get a world first on the merit purely of their skill and not because they got access to Yogg plus 0 before the other guys. It's a better contest for everybody, and that includes those who aren't even involved in it, because it's good to spectate if it goes on for longer. Because you get a number of guilds enter the fray and shoot for that world first, and it becomes more thrilling. This is probably the most lackluster, and this is not taking away from the achievements of Paragon or Stars or anyone else that's managed it by now. This has been the most lackluster world first kill that no one has cared about in the history of WoW. Okay, I'll take that back and say it's been the second most lackluster kill. The first most lackluster kill was Nax 25. Nobody cared about that. The only thing that people cared about there is, oh, they cleared all of Wrath content in 3 days, this is a problem. There was no celebrating going on there. But I've never seen such a lackluster response, and that is endemic of the fact that it is a lackluster instance. It's a lackluster design. It's a filler. It really is. Pretty much everything about that instance is lazy. We've already come to that conclusion. I don't think you can really argue about that. Now you can come around and try and defend Blizzard on it all you want, but it doesn't benefit you to do so. It doesn't benefit you to reward them or even give them a passing vote of acceptance on bad content. It's good for everyone if you've got good quality content. Even those who never touch the hard modes. You want varied, challenging fights in varied, great-looking locales. Neither of those happened. You did not get great-looking locales, you got a bloody arena. Stone walls. A big circle on the floor. You did not get a bunch of challenging and varied bosses. You got a bunch of reused models. And it really was as well. You got an updated Nubarak model, and basically everything else was a reused model. Nothing new there at all. Northrend Beasts. Reskinned freaking Jawmanga Worms. Indeed.
Not one, but 2 Jawmanga Worms.
Yes, not one but 2 reskinned Jawmanga Worms. Or and a Yeti, which is just bigger than usual, and a whatever the hell those things are, I can't remember. Magnators, that's the one. And you had a Eridar. Yeah, we've never seen an Eridar before, and you have 2 Valkyrs. Yeah, we've seen Valkyrs, they're exactly the same. Well, we had a Nubarak, who we've also seen before, and had minor updates done to his model, if that, and I don't even remember what the other fight was, it was so damn forgettable. That's it. That's what we get. Reused art assets. Reused everything. How appalling. And apparently, reused mechanics, or at least mechanics that are so easy to comprehend and understand that even the hard mode of the last boss goes down in under a day. Artificial limitations being put in place, gating being used there to poor effect to stop the instance being cleared in a day. Because, let's be honest, guys, those guilds could have. They could have cleared it in a day. And how embarrassing would that be? And Blizzard knew it. They knew these guilds could clear it in a day. They saw it on the PTR. They could not possibly not have known. Even if you just objectively looked at the encounters in comparison to the stuff that we've had before, looked at the mechanics, and just said, there is no way this is going to stop anybody who has beaten Yogg Zero, or anything like that. It's just not going to happen. Anyone could understand that. Unless the design team behind the dungeons is borderline incompetent, they are going to understand how that works. And I don't believe they are borderline incompetent at all. We've seen a lot of fantastic work from them. I feel that there are other things going on here. I feel there was pressure from somewhere to get some filler content up, and do it quick. And they threw something together. And maybe whoever is in charge of dividing the resources between the various different projects within the company, maybe they screwed up. Maybe whoever was making this instance was simply undermanned and they didn't have enough time. I'm not going to blame them. I'm sure they tried hard. But the chances are they were put in a situation where they were unable to produce something worth playing. And that hurts them. And it's an acknowledgement, with putting that gating system in, that they knew it at the end of it. They knew it. They knew it was not going to stand up against the test, and indeed having thousands upon thousands of great guilds hammering on it. It would not have stood up. It's not up to that standard. It's not a perfectly balanced set of encounters. It's not a wonderfully nuanced design with multiple layers of complexity. It's just dull. It's just thrown and hashed together. Now, I had a contact here from a member of Insidia, and I'm not going to name the name just in case he doesn't want me to. I'm sure if he wants me to, he will send me an email, and I can name him on the next show. This is a member of Insidia, and this is from his point of view, and he says, well, from my point of view, it feels like, and this is in reference to the Colosseum, a complete gear reset in a filler instance. There was nothing really all that hard in the zone, apart from a Nubarak hard mode. And he just became a lot harder, because now apparently you can no longer keep AoE stunning the ads in Phase 3 with Paladins. Too bad this was only noticed and fixed after 2 kills had already used this method. I kind of don't see the point in resetting every piece of gear this early after Ulduar, but I guess Ice Crown is still in production. The dev team is probably hoping to make a near-perfect instance to make up for everything else in Wrath. I certainly hope so. I hope that's what they're doing. I hope that's their justification. Because I can't think of any other justification that I personally would like to put out there as Blizzard and not just get called on and torn apart on. It's unfortunate to have to say, this is quoting another show, this is quoting Octel from another show. Why do we always have to have the Dark Ages in order to reach the Renaissance? I could not agree more with that sentiment. Wrath the Lich King, that's the Dark Ages. Cataclysm, looking at it at the moment, from hearing everything that Blizzard's had to say so far about Cataclysm, that's the Renaissance. That's the remake. That is the, not so much the relaunch, but the revitalization of the game. That's what I want to see. And to be honest, I just want to write all of this off. Maybe they can come up with a great instance for Ice Crown, maybe not. I hope so. We'll see. But I think we can conclude, and this is what the guilds are saying, that the Colosseum was garbage. Utter garbage. Filler. And nothing more. My name is TotalBiscuit. This is Blue Please here on WoW Radio. You think I'm angry? You ain't seen nothing yet. Ask the Murloc. Enjoy.
Ask the Murloc.
To sleep. perchance to dream, hey, there's the rub. For in that sleep of delicious death, what dreams may come. When I have shuffled all the peasants of this mortal coil, must give us all their pickles. There's the respect that makes calamity of their so-called lives. What? Who are you? How dare you disturb my musings? Oh, it's you, peasant folk. Is it really that time of the week again? The rigours of superiority. Fine, I suppose I should grace you with knowledge most arcane. What's this? Paper nonsense again? What, you are all too cowardly to ask your questions directly? You incompetent excuses for morons. How hard can it possibly be to record your questions on your microphonic device and email it to the Murloc@gmail.com? No, the Murloc will not teach you how to use a computer. The Murloc's computing course, named I Am Vastly Superior on Computers Than You, is available in 65 overwhelmingly complex lessons for only 15,000 gold. There are no free samples. You pilfering peons waste my time with your nonsense. Ask your piffling questions at once. Yes. Dear Murloc, can you tell me the best spec for a mage? Troll, next question. Dear Murloc, I've been hearing a lot about Recruit a Friend, but I'm not sure how it works. Can you help me? Ah, yes, Recruit a Friend, one of the finest money-grubbing schemes ever to cross the table of the Blizzard marketing department. Truly a corporation after my own heart. A few more years and they may even have amassed a fraction of the wealth I possess, at which point I will buy them and turn their employees into wallpaper paste. What do you mean that would be an inefficient waste of perfectly good slave labour? Do not question the Murloc's indulgences, lest ye become one yourself. Recruit a Friend is somewhat disingenuous, but Blizzard felt that forcefully conscripting a friend would not play well on the American markets. All about their so-called freedoms over there. I always loved free-range human flesh. So tender, so sweet. And with all the chemicals they stuff themselves with on a daily basis, it stays good for years in the pantry. To successfully recruit a friend, kidnap them while they sleep. I find a mixture of dream dust and crippling poison works best for this. Makes the target more compliant, less irksome. Strap them to a chair in front of the computer and threaten to eat their fingers unless they level their character with you. If they refuse, carrying out your threat could cause them difficulty in playing, but that problem can easily be avoided by forcing them to roll a Death Knight. If your friend still refuses to cooperate, then implement the following surefire procedure. Step 1. Apply the friend's face to the keyboard. Step 2. Set up an elaborate and thoroughly unnecessary pair of alternating guillotines, either side of your friend's head. Step 3. Activate the guillotine so that your friend is forced to roll his face back and forward on the keyboard in order to avoid gruesome decapitation. Step 4. Collect your emblems of conquest. Now, let's see here. What other pathetically simple questions have you vomited forth from that bucket of slop you call a brain? Dear Murloc, are you in fact the reincarnation of the Chaos God Zinch? Reincarnation would imply that Zinch, yes, died to begin with. Yeah. Zinch is in fact alive and well and living in a small village in the Cotswolds. I know this because I spoke to him just yesterday. Why did he move to the Cotswolds instead of simply living for all eternity and beyond in magical, incomprehensible realms of chaos? Turns out he fancied a change. What? My humour is beyond your mere mortal understanding. Right. One more and then it's off with the lot of you. You defiled my dwelling for far too long. Dear Murloc, please explain to me what is going to happen to the Booty Bay when the cataclysm arrives. Well, naturally it will flood and everybody will die horribly, except for me. For you see, I have had my servants build an ark, and upon this ark I shall put 2 of every non-combat pet. Then when the water subsides and society begins to rebuild itself from the ashes, I will sell them to morons on the auction house for all the gold in Azeroth. At which point I shall build a second ark, put in 2 of every moron, and then sink the damn thing in the middle of the maelstrom. Ha ha!
Ask the Murloc.
You're listening to Blue Please here on WoW Radio. It's the podcast edition, now also known as the ISP Sucks edition, with myself, TotalBiscuit. That's a brick going through the ISP's window, incidentally. Obviously, it's going to be a slightly shorter show as a direct result of that, and I do apologize profusely. Not my intention by any stretch. Unfortunately, it looks like I don't have a choice. Oh well, last but by no means least, let's get on with this. This is a nice topic. I actually discussed this before the show. In the brief period that my internet decided it would do as it was supposed to do. And it's on the subject of stat simplification. Now, I would like to give Blizzard the opportunity to tell us, in their own words, a little bit about this. So what I've done is I have a clip here from our BlizzCon footage. And we're going to listen to a few minutes from the Classes and Items panel, where they will attempt to explain some of the changes forthcoming in Cataclysm to the way that stats work. I'll play that for you right now.
Our game. One of the things we want to do going into the next expansion, talk louder. Is that it? Is that not loud enough? Okay! There you go. Alright. So, talking about itemization moving into Cataclysm, we wanted to streamline a bunch of stats, get rid of some of the ones that didn't make sense anymore, make some of the stats that have been in games since ship that were bad not bad anymore, and just make them easier to understand in general. So the first one, Mana 5. I know most of you who have it hate it, and I'm sorry I keep shoving it down your throat, so it's gone. But you get Spirit. However, Spirit, so basically we did a lot of talking about this, decided the whole concept of Spirit Regen. Managing resources is generally not fun for anyone that's not a healer. They're really the only people that ever want to use any kind of mana regen mechanic. So what we did is we're going to give all the healers some form of meditation or in-combat regen, maybe just change how Spirit works to work kind of like Mana 5 in addition. And mages and warlocks, you just don't have to deal with it anymore. I promise. Spell power, that's also gone. Don't panic. It's okay. Instead, what we're going to do, Intellect, we're going to make it stop sucking, and Intellect is going to provide your mana and spell power now. And as Greg pointed out, yeah, Hunters, you can stop dealing with it. Enhancement Shamans also, since you share gear with them, you're not going to have to worry with that either. Attack power, gone also. Now you can panic. What we're going to do instead, though, is try to differentiate the purpose of attack power, what it started out as and what it became. Kind of confusing. Everyone takes it. What we're going to do instead is turn agility into the attack power for the rogues and the hunters. So agility is going to provide 2 AP the same way strength does for plate-wearing classes. For rogues, hunters, shamans, druids. And plate-wearers won't steal your gear anymore.
There you go. That's from Blizzard's own mouth there, and that was taken from the Classes and Items panel of BlizzCon. Interesting. And, of course, as you heard from the audience there, controversial. No joke. I'm going to do something that you might not expect, and that's actually come out in favour of this. And before you go screaming, let me explain why. It takes a big company, and by big I don't mean large, I mean a company that can look at itself and say, we have made some mistakes, in order to turn around and really gut their system of the chaff and just keep the wheat and then start over. That's what's happening right here. This is my interpretation of it. Another quote from BlizzCon was that they want to make you able to choose what gear you use, as opposed to go to a spreadsheet, find the best in slot, and then plug the item slot with it. Quote, they said that the item might as well not even have a model and name, because you don't really care about it anyway. You just care that it's the best. Now, if I have to sacrifice some variety in stats Particularly when you bear in mind that stats are not all equal. We heard the whole thing, hey, we wanted you to care about Mana 5. Hey, look, nobody cares about Mana 5, because Mana 5 is a really boring stat. Spirit is also a really boring stat, and they have gone to some lengths to make it a little bit more interesting lately. Attack power is a messy, messy stat. It's pointless. It's redundant. Look at it. It's like agility gives attack power. Okay, so why does attack power even have to exist? Why can't you just make agility do the damage? Or strength in the case of warriors and death knights, stuff like that. That makes sense. That takes out a level of redundancy that doesn't need to be there. It's just redundant rubbish. It's systems piled upon systems. The problem that you've got is that the stat system started off at a specific level and it was not balanced, let me put it that way. Some stats were more preferable than others, and indeed there are stats which are useless for various classes, and that's fine. I don't expect to have a use for strength as my mage. That would just be silly. I'm fine with that. But as they tried to add layer upon layer of complexity, they just piled stat upon stat upon stat, and what you had is certain stats would clearly benefit your class more than others. So that didn't actually add any kind of choice at all. It was just like, well, okay, mathematically speaking, looking at this guide from Elitist Jerks, that says that this is what I have to do in order to maximize my DPS. That's not a choice. At all. It's an illusion of choice, in fact. Not a real choice. Now, what they wanted to do with gear is to give you the opportunity to make a choice. And that's good, because that's something we've never really had variety in. It literally has always been, hey, save your DKP for the best in slot, because the best in slot is mathematically provable. You're always going to run into a situation where every now and again an item is just going to be flat out better. But it would be nice to not run into that situation in every single slot, in every single dungeon. I don't want to see that. That's dull. Where's the variety in gear? And you've got people complaining about, oh, well, it's nerfing the variety in stats. Here's the thing. If you take down the bad system down to its core mechanics, then you have the opportunity to rebuild it using the knowledge and experience that you've gained over the past 5 years. And in theory, what you can do is you can have it blossom into an even better system with even more variety at the top end, because you have made a robust foundation on which to build. You do not have a shaky foundation, which is what you had initially. And indeed, all the way through to now, the stats are just a mess. Some of them are just not as good as others. Some you don't care about, you don't want. You've got things like armor penetration, which they said it was too mathy, too mathematical. Okay. So you can still get armor penetration, but it's going to become a part of the mastery system. It's going to be built into talents and things like that. Okay. I'm fine with that. I know that armor penetration is a good thing. And I know that I should have it if I'm a certain class. So why don't I just get it? And let me make a choice elsewhere. That's the thing. Yeah, okay, your MP5 is going to come from Spirit, so you don't get to choose to have MP5. But all that does, it means it frees your choices up for something that's more fun. Something that's more enjoyable and gives you a more tangible benefit that you can genuinely see. When you gain power in an RPG, whether or not it be through level ups or better gear, it is vitally important to make the distinction between your previous level of power and your current level of power, because making progress in an RPG is something that people want to do. They want to advance their characters. They want to make their characters more powerful. Is that a bad thing? Of course it's not. It's the very essence of computer-based RPGs at any rate, because of course role-playing doesn't really go on in them anymore. And I don't think there'll be a nice acronym for game which involves levels and gear and killing monsters. Yeah, it doesn't really work so well. So you run into the situation where if you take away the bad stats, you can grow the good stats, and then you can add new good stats. Don't get me wrong, they could potentially screw this up bad. They already said that they have certain concerns about the complexity of the game. And some people will make the argument, oh, well, people are just idiots. Here's the thing. I'm not the most mathematically gifted of people. I never was. My specialties lie in other areas. Like the ability to talk bollocks on the internet for an hour and a half. You know, I got an A+ in that. And I can guarantee. So, when it comes to these stats, I consider myself an above-average player, because I've been in above-average guilds and raided above-average content. As in, I've killed content that only 5 to 10% of the player base has killed. Now, don't get me wrong, that doesn't make me top tier by any stretch. No way. But it does put me in the a certain top percentile of the player base. And a certain top percentile of the raiding player base. But I do not understand, at least to the level where I could work it out for myself without any help or aid, the relative balance between certain stats. As in, I have to use things to help me. Now, I would prefer to be able to make the choice on the basis of my own knowledge, but as it stands, I have to use guides from, say, Elitist Jerks, or I have to use RAW from Asia's, and all the stuff like that, maxdps.com. I'm going to use all of that stuff to make the decisions. So in reality, I'm not making any decisions for myself. Raw is making them. EJ is making them. MaxDPS is making them. Some guy on the forums is making them for me who's done the math. That doesn't make me a good player. I would actually like to feel like I'm doing something that is making a genuine difference to my character, and I'm making an informed decision. Entirely on my own power. Not because some guy on this forum said that is this the decision I should make based on this formula. That takes control away from me. So, let's be honest, the vast majority, I'll put the claim out here, the vast majority of people who are complaining about this are also not the people who do this math themselves. They get it from other places. There's nothing wrong with that, because the result is the same. In terms of being a good player, the result of getting your math from elsewhere, or doing it yourself, as long as you arrive at the same conclusion, it's irrelevant what you've done. It doesn't make a difference to your ability to play, and your ability to raid well. However, I would like it to. I would like to be able to make those informed decisions based on a good stat system. And a stat system whereby I have to make a genuine choice. And I can make a genuine informed choice between stats that are good and matter. And they make a tangible difference to me. Because if something does not make a tangible difference, then it does break the sense of accomplishment from progressing your character via the advancement of stats, levels, and gear. Which again, core mechanic to computer-based RPGs. You cannot break that. If you do, you run the risk, particularly in an MMO, where the storyline is not as strong, where the interaction with NPCs is not as strong, where the quests are not as good, where the content is much more repetitive. You run the risk of making your game dull, and making it dull at endgame. That is not acceptable. Now you may argue it's like, oh, it's just for the dumb new players and blah blah blah. Since when have new players had to deal with stats like that? They just take what they can get. The advanced stats and stuff comes at endgame. And I will go out of my way to say that even within the guilds that I've played, the vast majority of players have not understood the stats to the level where they would be able to work it out for themselves without help. So yes, give independence to the players. Yes, give players the ability to make choices in their gear. And if you have to make sacrifices in order to do that, if we have to compromise on the issue of having less stats for a while and less stat variety, I will gladly take more gear variety over more stat variety any day of the week, because the gear variety is much more tangible, much more enjoyable, and much more visual. I feel a greater sense of accomplishment and reward for getting the brand new magic sword than for getting +7 attack power. That's it. It's as simple as that. Could they screw it up? Absolutely. Could they dumb it down to a stupid level where it's a total, absolute waste of time? Absolutely. Could they kill the game? Absolutely. But how many other opportunities have they had to do that? Just wait and see how it goes, and don't be so skeptical, because there is the potential for greatness here. There is the potential to make a leaner meaner game that works better and plays better and is much more enjoyable for you. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been TotalBiscuit. Thank you ever so much for listening to this, and I'm very sorry I couldn't go live this week. Check out the rest of our shows on WCRadio.com. I am out of here. This is Frank Klepacki. This is The Reaping. I have been TotalBiscuit. This has been Blue Please. Good night. You have been listening to the podcast and archive of Blue Please, a show that airs exclusively on WCRadio.com on Fridays at 8 p.m. British Standard Time. That's 3 p.m. EST. You can check out our archives on our website at WCRadio.com and subscribe to our RSS feeds. Don't forget to rate and review us using iTunes, and if you wish to leave constructive criticism,